Welcome to the New Friends podcast, Brian Richter.
Thank you. Thank you.
This gorgeous specimen over here. I know Brian because he is married to one of my very good friends, David Silvia Garcia, who was also a guest on the podcast. So he is a very well-known fadista in the community, and this is his wonderful husband.
Thank you. You're going to let it go to my head.
And we've adopted him into the community, and I hear that you've gotten pretty good at Portuguese recently.
It's actually kind of nice because for those who don't know me, I'm half Puerto Rican, and so from my mom's side, so I grew up with Spanish in the household. Now I can understand a lot of it. I'm not good at speaking it.
Spanish.
Yeah. But there's a lot of similarities with Portuguese, and so I always tell people like Portuguese, you don't enunciate as much, or at least to me, it doesn't sound like you do compared to Spanish.
Very interesting, yeah.
Which is kind of fun.
I was just having this conversation about Spanish because I keep getting on my algorithm half Arabic, half Portuguese women. And I'm like, this is such a cool mix. Yeah. And a lot of the Arabic and Portuguese words are the same. And so I have a friend that is Lebanese. I'm like, hey, can you confirm or deny this? Because
is this real?
And she's like, yeah, my God, this is so crazy. Like so much influence in just one little big language in little country.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I really thought it would be fun to have you on because you're not Portuguese at all.
Correct. Yeah.
And you came into the Portuguese culture, not just because you married somebody that's Portuguese, but you married somebody that's very involved in the community. Like he's not just Portuguese.
Right. Portuguese celebrity. That's what it feels like at least.
Yeah, he definitely is like a celebrity in our community for sure and beyond. He has albums and very successful in his music career. So you were thrown into like lights, camera, action, and that had to be a little intimidating.
Yeah. So just a little backstory. I met David in, when was it? 2017. It was like September, October. And so we were getting to know each other, started to date. And this was about 6 months before he released his album.
That's right.
Which he had his release party for that in March of 2018. And so when you said lights, camera, action, my mind immediately went straight to that. Like I feel like that was my I don't know, baptism into the Portuguese community. I'm not quite sure what to call it.
Oh my God.
But yeah, we went to that event, and I remember just like looking around the room. There was like maybe 300, 400 people there.
A lot of people.
All from all across the community, like local people from the valley.
I'm sure it was packed.
Very packed. And so all that to say is I walked in and was like, whoa, like this is such a different culture in a good way.
Yeah.
And then
so happy to hear
yeah. I never, like, my first impressions were like just a lot of warmth I got just in general, and I continue to get to this day. But yeah, I just remember going to that and thinking to myself, like, whoa, like who am I dating right now? What is happening?
How did he prep you for that? Did he just say, oh, I sing and I'm just doing this little Portuguese stuff here and there? Or was it like, did he kind of give you it like,
yeah,
'cause I'm sure he downsized his magnitude.
Yes. You say that, I'm like, yep, that checks out. David. Yeah. So when we first started dating, he said he was, involved in the Portuguese community, and I didn't really have like a good barometer of like what that meant.
Yeah.
He does folklore. He did say that he like sang. Came to find out like he's done a couple of albums, like doing this thing, and I'm like, okay, like it seems like you're downplaying it. Cool. And yeah, and so what was the question again?
What was like, did he prep you? Did he prep you for like a little bit, like, or did he downplay his?
Especially for that event. Yeah, so like he did prep me, and I do remember one of the things he said most like clearly. He said something, and this is in relation to his release. He goes, this, release is for my CD, but all eyes are going to be on you. And I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, we're here for your music and your album and all of that. And he's like, I've never brought anyone around the Portuguese community. And so at this point, we're about like 6 months, like into dating, give or take. And so sure enough, we walked in, and of course people, oh my God, David, your album. But you've been to PBSJ in San Jose. Yeah. And so it's a big hall. And I remember like walking in and just kind of like there were just tables everywhere and people sitting. And we were moving toward the stage because David's table was up there, our table. And I'm walking over. And as we're walking through, there's just like people like turning their head, you know? And I was just thinking to myself, like, is he talking about me? Like, this is for David, you know? So he did prep me to answer your question, to bring it back. But I guess I didn't really take it seriously at first.
Yeah.
I was like,
whatever.
I'm a guest.
You're here.
I'm here
like
to
every
listen to music and, you know, hear you.
Was that the first time did you hear some music? I'm sure 6 months already you guys were in, so you heard some music.
I'm pretty sure I went to a couple.
I was gonna say you probably had some shows that you went to and everything, and that's really cool to go to too. Like, because David sings fado, so they're very intimate shows, and you can imagine being like, this is like powerful. This is like something that must have been insane. And you guys have probably traveled here in near and far for shows and everything. So it's become a part of your life now. Like going to Portuguese things have become now part of your lifestyle.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially like as I was like learning more about the community and seeing all the places David was involved, like I did make it a point to really, you know, immerse myself in it because I know how important David's culture is to him.
Yeah.
And since he values it so much, and since, you know, at this time and now I love him so much, I'm like, I want to
immerse myself
in it and, you know, really try to get an understanding for these things that he holds so like, deeply and closely to him. And so, yeah, I would go to like festas, different shows he'd do.
The most weird thing you saw that you've done. Well, the weirdest Portuguese thing you've done.
Yeah. So when you say the word weird, the thing that comes...
Please say it.
The thing that comes to mind is Carnival. The only reason I say that is because, you know, he prepped me on it. He's like, yeah, it's like Mardi Gras kind of, but just like for the Portuguese community, and there's like skits and things. And I'm thinking like, oh, this is going to be strictly about like culture, like historical things.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be, right?
Yeah.
It just depends on like who's writing the script. But yeah, and so I like walked in and I just see like all these elaborate costumes and just like, you know, men dressing up as women and, you know, all these different things. And like one year they all dressed up like cows.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm here for it. Let's, you know, learn more and take in what I can. But yeah.
Carnival definitely weird. I always think about like just the parades in general with all the queens. I'm like, what the non-Portuguese people are like, what are these crazy people with capes and crowns doing walking down the street with the marching band? There's nothing else but this.
100-degree heat.
Yeah. Like all these poor little girls. So it's been a wild ride. You've been to your more than a handful of events and in the culture now for years. It's been years now.
Yeah, it's been 2018. Yeah.
Did you grow up with a lot of culture yourself?
You know, I'd say I did just like on my Puerto Rican side. So yeah, 50% Puerto Rican and my dad is Irish and Austrian. And so there was like, I would say some cultural things like in Puerto Rico, like they have their different like festivals, you know, things like that. I wouldn't 100% compare it to like the Portuguese culture.
Well, I'm sure they have their communities that are like, you know, that do the same things we do and stuff that are trying to keep their culture alive too.
Yeah.
Just gotta find it.
You do have to find it.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's just so vibrant here, especially like not just in San Jose, but in California. The Portuguese community.
I know when the statistics of it, I guess there's more Portuguese people in California than there are like really anywhere in the world besides Portugal. And it just because I think California is pretty big that they were just so spread out. It doesn't feel like it feels like little pockets of Portuguese people, you know, like in cases that San Jose is saturated, but then you have your like little that are not as vibrant.
Yeah.
God. So when you started coming around, you're like, am I the only gay person here? Did you ask him that? Like,
yeah, we definitely had conversations. You know, just looking around, like I feel like any person who walks into a space, whether it's conscious or subconscious, they might think to themselves, like, are there people like me here? Or that I can, like, you know, easily, like, connect with and, you know, kind of stuff. Yeah, and I don't know that we had like a blatant conversation about it besides like I don't think if we did have a conversation about that.
Probably not.
Yeah, I don't think it was like outwardly, but when, you know,
No.
you walk into
I think the reason why I even ask is because coming from the side of being his friend and being on the outside of it, I think everyone was so curious because he is this
yeah.
famous person, right? So they're like, what is it? Like, does he have a secret girlfriend or boyfriend? And what is it? So people just naturally like how we gossip about the Kardashians or something, right? So, but Portuguese people are very gossipy.
What? No.
So I think it was like when you say the all eyes on you, it was because it was like people wanted to know. Like they were like, so is he out? Is he this? They wanted to know. So I think that's probably why you felt like you had all eyes on you. But I think for the most part, our community is very accepting.
Yeah, yeah. I've been thinking about that a lot. Just because like, you know, you hear stories from like different friends and their partners and they
Mhm.
come out with like family and friends and it can go well or, you know, it doesn't. And I do feel, like I said a little bit earlier, there's always been this like warmth, I guess, that's been
Yeah.
like extended to me. And you also said it, like curiosity. Um, you know, all the events we go to and different things, people like I'm pretty social myself going into these situations, backgrounds in recruitment.
Yeah.
And so you can throw me in a space
Yeah.
and I can just like figure it out. Like, it'll be
Yeah.
fine. You know, David could be gone for like 4 hours.
And you'll be having the time.
And I'll
You're like,
go to the bar. Definitely can handle it. And so I think with that, like
and you pass for being Portuguese, so I don't think people question like if you're Portuguese or not. Because I'm like, you look like you could be Portuguese. I
Okay.
asked.
So-
I was like, is he Portuguese?
So when you say that, what does Portuguese look like to you?
Well, for me, but then I come from a sister that's blonde with green eyes. But like, I think
Mhm.
brown hair,
Yeah.
brown eyes, olive tone
Yeah.
skin. That's what I think of.
I'm always curious when I like
Yeah.
ask people because people will ask me, they're like, "Are you Portuguese?" I'm like, not white, like Puerto Rican and Indian. So if you mix those, I guess like maybe.
Yeah, I'm sure it's somewhere in there. But because my family's from the mainland of Portugal, so I have so many different things. When I did my ancestry, I'm like 28% Spanish from Spain. I have like Italian and all this stuff. But my husband, who's from the islands, from the Azore Islands,
Mhm.
literally 97% Portuguese.
Oh, wow.
Like, yeah,
That's so different.
so different. And I have like even Moroccan in me, like it's so crazy. But that's because my family's from the mainland where they were traveling.
Mm-hmm.
They were living their best life.
Yeah.
Because my
Oh my gosh.
yeah. So have you guys went? You went?
Yeah. We've been
No.
Yeah, for our honeymoon in this past May, so May of 2024, we did like a little European tour.
Did you feel strong with your Portuguese like after that or before that? Were you feeling pretty confident before it?
Okay, so this is actually funny because I was feeling confident. I've been around the Portuguese community. Um, you know, I like when we're at dinner with David's like parents, like it'll start in English and then it'll go to Portuguese, which I'm all here for because for me
Yeah.
it's like training and like learning.
Totally. Yeah, you have
You
to
know?
hear it. It like forces you.
Yeah, and I'm pretty good. Like I can pick up in conversations kind of the tone, what we're talking about, again, because I'm familiar with Spanish. So to answer your question, yeah, when we're in Lisbon, like this is gonna be great. I'm gonna understand everything. And it's so ironic because I talk to people like from Lisbon and just mainland Portugal, and it was harder for me to understand them than folks from the Azores
Yeah.
that I normally interface with here in San Jose.
Well, that's what you got accustomed to.
Exactly. And so I didn't realize that it was the dialects, for
Yeah.
lack of a better term, are that different. Like, do you feel like they're different?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
How so?
So I think when I really noticed that there was even like different accents, I was probably like at my teens, like my early teens, and I did like the whole queen thing with two friends that are from the Azore Islands, so I was around their families and stuff, and I remember it was a little bit hard
Mm.
to get used to because there's different slang and everything. And then my sister married somebody from the islands, and then he would be speaking to my parents in Portuguese, and I remember sitting at the table thinking, "Wow, that sounds so different."
It was wild.
So it took me a while to get used to it. And so like the carnival is very more based Azores, people from here and from the Azores mostly do it. I know they have Carnival in the mainland, but like the people here typically from the Azores, so like they get so slangy in Carnival because it's like very jokey and like sketchy that sometimes I'm so lost still. I'm like, oh my God, they're like literally their accent is so thick right now. And then they start saying their little slang words. I'm like, I'm lost.
Oh my gosh, just being at dialects and stuff. One difference I didn't really know, like I felt the difference with like the Lisbon mainland and then the Azores, but within the Azores, I also noticed the difference with like folks, for example, from Beach and San Miguel, because San Miguel there's more of like a French flair to
I don't know.
I don't like, do you know what I'm saying?
I don't know what it is.
But there's just like a little like
to be something. I don't know what it is.
it feels French. It feels French, which is great.
I should not be laughing this hard. Yeah, I don't know what it is.
Yeah, now you won't be able to unhear it.
Now I need to figure out like the root of what it is. Did you guys watch the Netflix series, the Face show?
Is it
The Turn of the Tide? The Turn of the Tide one?
Is that the one with the like where the drugs walk?
Yeah.
Yes, we did watch. I think like one season.
Yes, they're gonna come out with another season soon. But their accent is a lot from there too.
Yeah.
So
definitely noticed that.
Well, there was like controversy because they hired more like mainland actors, and they're like, "Yo, people can't understand you.
They're like, figure it out.
One, two of you guys, because otherwise, people are not going to understand you." But yeah, so the accents are, but even Brazilian Portuguese, and then there used to be like people from Macau speaking Portuguese. We like spread our seed everywhere.
Yeah. It's cool to see all the different variations and just like interact with folks and just like get accustomed to it. And, like, it's Portuguese, but there's just so many like renditions of it.
Yeah.
It's just kind of cool.
I always wanted to have this conversation with you about like how it felt coming in, because to me it was like, oh my God, you guys, like it was kind of almost like a finally, like we have like representation of a gay happy couple for the Portuguese my parents' generation and older to see like it and be good and not question or whisper or this or that. You guys kind of like look like the trailblazers of our community over here, which was awesome, because I know I talked about this with David. He was such the perfect person for the assignment he didn't know he had, because he's so polished and put together that it's not like what probably my parents' generation on would think of when they think of a gay person. So it was really nice to have representation, and I think that your guys' representation really helped other people too in the community do good and fine. So I'm happy that you guys are part of the generation that we're like opening up and everything, because our age, our generation, our parents are immigrants and still have their old ways of thinking. So, you know, it's not died off yet.
Yeah.
So we're still somewhat fighting it, but I think for the most part, Portuguese, I mean, I think it was legal to be married, to have gay marriage in Portugal before it was even here.
Maybe.
I think they were like one of the first ones. So we've always been pretty accepting.
Yeah, very progressive. We love progressive.
And I think Portugal is actually pretty progressive, to be honest with you.
Yeah. No, that's nice of you to say, just about like, you know, us being trailblazers. And yeah, I've just been like reflecting, especially knowing like we were going to chat about this a little bit, like how it felt coming into the community and whatnot. And I think for me, it seems like just hearing like you speak about it and just like other people we know, it was like a really big deal for like David to bring me around and for us to, you know, have this big wedding and like be public about it and, you know, that kind of stuff. And for me, it seemed like another day. I think a part of that is like I've lived in a lot of places, luckily, that have been very accepting of like folks who are gay. Some places, I've also lived places where it isn't.
And we're in California, so
in California,
we're very blessed.
Yes, and so I feel like there's that extra like sprinkling of like openness and acceptance. But I didn't realize, especially for maybe the first few years, how big of a deal it was for David's.
I think it was such a good, like, honestly, like almost like a role model thing, because for even like his parents, how well they adapted and how well they were received in the love, and it was just like you guys like hit his parents, they're good role models
Yeah.
for that. Like,
Yeah.
to tell the other parents, like, no, you don't have to beat your child, like, because like he's gay or something. And that's how it was, like, for a lot of like kids my age growing up and stuff. Like, their dads and parents were very hard on them because
Mhm.
I guess they didn't know any better.
Right.
I don't know.
I was gonna say,
I don't think they're meaning any harm or anything. They just didn't know enough.
yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like the idea of like intention and impact. Like you don't know enough. You could have the best of intentions like for your child or whatnot, but depending on your actions and how you treat them or,
Do you feel like now when there's like a festa coming up or something, are you like a festa or
Well, for
Or-
me, any excuse to go out, hang out
Yeah.
with David, all of our friends, like, I don't think there's that energy of like, I have to go. I think it's really just an opportunity to, connect with people, especially like coming out of COVID, kind of like COVID's
Yeah.
still around, but we're pretty much living life normally. After having those years of like solitude, I'm like, any opportunity to hang out with people, I'm like, let's go,
way
let's do it.
more like willing now?
Yeah.
'Cause it's a lot out of us, that's for sure.
I will say, for like the only time I'll bring that energy is if there's like a show David has like 3 hours away or like
Yeah.
more. That's a long car ride
And car ride back.
and car ride back, But overall, I'm usually pretty happy to go.
Yeah, because usually you'll get fed with a pretty good meal.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
the nice thing. At least you're not like with me. I sing for a band. Like, there's not really nice meals before. At least with other shows, you get like,
They usually do the dinner.
yeah, there definitely is that. Did you guys, I'm sure, experience some of that in Portugal, the Fado nights in there? How do you feel like it was different? How do you feel like we portray it over here being, and then seeing like the real deal?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So I loved it. I'll just start with that. I thought it was really surreal to have that experience to go to an actual Fado house.
Yeah.
And, they have like the doors open and like all the different tables and the wine on the table, all that stuff. I feel like over here for the shows I've gone to, like it's pretty comparable. I just would say it's more intimate
Yeah.
in like Lisbon, like we saw it in Lisbon. So a lot smaller, I think. Over here when they have them at the halls, like, they want to get as many people and, fundraise and all that kind of stuff, which makes total sense. So I would say it's pretty comparable. I will say, and maybe this is a shameless plug, I don't know, it's good press. I think Umakaza
Portrays that.
portrays it like one of the best I've seen in California.
That's amazing. And this is coming from someone that goes to a lot of Fado shows. Okay, so that is not.
If you have not been, check it out. I know. You're welcome, Salmo. But no, it's like, it's
No, yeah.
pretty comparable. Have you been over?
I haven't been there for a show. I've only walked in like a couple times in and out to get gift cards because I worked in San Francisco and literally we just need a babysitter. Anybody want to babysit my children?
I mean, if it gets you to the restaurant,
Yeah, I know.
I'm to San Jose, it might be out of the way. I don't know. But
No, we have to go there. Like,
Mhm.
we'll have to plan something. I'm getting so much better at planning things. My gosh. Like, I had to get my together because life is just a lot.
It is especially like you have your husband, your kids, like
I do all of it, but I do all of it.
you're doing all this amazing stuff with Mama and, your podcast. Like, do you sleep?
Barely. I'm like, literally, what was last day of Mercury retrograde was today.
Oh,
Yes, the last day was today. We're free.
we are free.
Feeling extra crazy in August.
Yeah.
There's a reason
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah.
Everybody just don't make any rash decisions. We got a week left.
Yeah.
Me too. Wait, when's your birthday?
August 11th.
Yes,
So-
we're summer babies.
Yeah, when's yours?
I'm June 11th.
Oh, so 2 11s. Okay.
11.
Feel me 11
I
energy.
literally see 11/11 every single day of my entire life. Every day. Somebody told me one time if you see 11/11, like that is just like a sign. Now, my spiritual side,
Yeah.
a sign that like you're on the right path, you're doing the right
Yeah.
thing, like keep going, continue. Very positive
Oh my
thing.
gosh. Isn't that considered, what do they call it? Like angel numbers,
Yeah,
right?
like they have the
Like-
222.
Yeah.
They all have like meanings behind it.
Yeah.
I just take any of the good grace
Yeah.
that people do.
Give us all the good energy.
Whether it be holding crystals or whatever, if you tell me. I was funny because my aunt is super into crystals, and my mom went out to San Francisco with all her girls, and she's like, what is this? And I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's right. All right, yeah. And I'm like, hold it. And like, man, like, think of good puzzle. Are you like a picky eater? Are you good with all the Portuguese food and stuff?
I'm pretty good with the Portuguese food. I will say I'm not the biggest seafood fan, and obviously that's a staple, in the community. But anything
With so many meat stews and this,
yeah,
that, and beans. Yeah.
like bifanas,
Lots of heart attack food.
lots of heart attack food. That's why I go to the gym to like, just to be able to eat and drink.
I just go to David's parents' house weekly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we usually go weekly.
Yep.
1 to 2 times, usually at about.
Oh, how wonderful.
And his mom is great. I mean, both of his parents, but his mom just like cooking the meals and oh my gosh, make sure you take more so that you can have some for tomorrow. All of that.
No, Portuguese will love to feed their people.
Gosh.
Like they won't stop
They
trying
won't
to
stop.
feed you. Every time I go to my in-laws' house,
Yep.
I come home with like onions and
Yep.
like
We'll like come home with some sort of gift. It'll be to your point, like onions, or maybe there's like those what are they called? The fruits that are really popular.
the maracujá.
Yes, maracujá, because they have like
Oh, they have a tree.
a tree of stuff.
So, being that you know how like David grew up in Portuguese like that, how is it like now that you're seeing like the like evolution of him being Portuguese and now do you feel like you want to continue being a part of all of this stuff and supporting all of that? Do you feel like it's okay, this is a phase, we're going to support you right now, but eventually you got to stop all this shit?
No, I will always support David with his involvement in the community. I know how much he's invested, how he's always showing up for people in the community. I will never tell him you should not do this. Like if he wants to do it, let's figure out how we can do it as like a partnership,
I think it's awesome, and I think it's great to have non-Portuguese people at Portuguese things because there's not going to be 100% Portuguese people forever, and there isn't. And like all of our generations are marrying and dating out and having kids that are not speaking Portuguese anymore or anything like that. So it's like we have to bring our people in and show because it is a beautiful culture and it has a lot of love to give, and so I appreciate you just like being so open to us too because everyone loves you.
I'm glad to hear that. I haven't gotten any negative feedback, but
joy,
I'm sure.
And even like I mean, talking about Angela Bita, who's also Felicia, her husband's not Portuguese, and he's about to be president of the San Pablo Hall. So
right on.
It's gonna be the first like ever non-Portuguese person having that title, and I just love that so much because you have to be super involved to have some type of president position wherever.
Like any leadership.
Any leadership is all volunteer work. So. What do you think of all of that? Like all the everyone's just volunteering themselves to all of this stuff. I mean, it's all for a greater good, but and it all comes from like the immigrants that were here before and everyone helping. So how if you had to rate Portuguese community from 0 to 10 on like community service, how would it be?
I mean, 10 being the most service. Like, I would say 10 because just from what I've seen down here in San Jose.
Yeah, you're like in it.
So many things happening, and okay, we're gonna do this Bifana sale, and we want to have this.
Yeah, the funders and stuff.
All of that. They do the Alcatra, I think.
It's very good. You like that?
Because I love it.
Okay, good.
Oh my gosh, love it.
Are you guys gonna go to the folklore festival?
So David is.
Okay.
I'm actually out of town.
Well, out of town. Like they're serving Alcatra. You better tell them to bring him.
I know. Yeah, no, I'll like tell him, David, save me a little points for when I get back. But no, the festival, I was gonna go, and then something popped up.
Would you ever dance in the group?
Okay, can I tell you?
Have they been hounding you?
Because can I tell you about this?
Well, groups, you guys need to chill out with males because if you are a man, people hound you so you could be in their dance group.
Yes. No, for sure. Okay, I have 2 things on this. So the first one is I am scarred.
No, is it the one where you grab them to dance for the dance?
Where we went to, David was like, "Oh, come watch me dance in folklore." It was at I forget, one of the halls in San Jose. This is like maybe 8 months, 9 months into seeing each other. And so I didn't realize when you go watch folklore dance, like they'll pull you from the crowd, like they'll ask you. David didn't give me any prep. And And so I'm just sitting there minding my own business. And then a couple people I know who I'd met through David at that time dancing, they came up and pulled me. And I also want to preface this. I was like kind of scrubbing it. I wasn't expecting to have eyes on me at all. Just kind of like
Was trying
ripped
to
short.
blend in.
Just trying to blend in. Like it was a Sunday or, whatever. And I get pulled up and I'm just like, when I'm unprepared for stuff, I just like mentally freak out a little.
Yeah.
For better or worse.
Oh my God, that's such a like vulnerable situation.
And like
even for Portuguese people, it's because we're all learning these dances on a weekly basis, having dance for.
Yup. And they pulled me up and they're like, traumatizing. It was very traumatizing, can confirm to this day. So to get to your second question about joining the dance, whenever we go to like the folklore picnics and
You're like, do not.
I'm like, one, don't pull me, but they'll ask me, they'll be like, oh, you should join. Like, when is Brian going to come? Are we going to see you at the next practice? And so I love that David loves it. I love that for him. I am here to support anytime I can.
Something that you almost like are raised into do the folklore stuff. Like,
I won't say it's ever off the table, but like, just right. I think
it's a hard no. Yeah.
The hard no.
Yeah.
But we can always talk about it. That's what, if it's something really important to David, we can talk about it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I appreciate your time and talking with me today. I think that we kind of covered all of my questions. Do you have any questions for me or anything?
That's a good question.
This is definitely not an interview, so you definitely don't have to have any questions for me at all.
I also feel like
I feel bad that we didn't eat any of well, they can't see it, but should at least eat, or else Portuguese people say, oh my God, they literally have food on they didn't eat.
I guess for me, like, how involved are you in the Portuguese community? Like, I know that you sing fado, right? And you do your podcast. You have some involvement, but did you grow up like always doing like folklore, festas? Like, what did that look like for you?
I always grew up going to like festas for sure, like as a kid. And then I danced in some folklore groups and Luso stuff. And then I like marched. I dabbled in things here and there. And then when I was in like 13, I started dancing for a folklore group, and I danced in that group with my sister for 10 years. So I love folklore. I love it so much.
So you're pulling people up there.
I know. And so when I'm like, when you're saying this, I'm like, dang, it is traumatizing.
You can pull anyone up there, just not me.
Yeah, because I remember we did it every performance, and every person was like, it's okay, I got it from here. So yeah, I did grow up in all of it. And then when I was 19, that's when I started singing really in bands, and then dabbling here and fado here and there and stuff like that. So now I sing for a band and stuff. But yeah, I grew up in all of it. But I feel like I took a good break from the community.
Okay.
Like when I pretty much met Roger. So I'm like going on 7 years. Like when I met him, I was just like,
so you met each other before David and I met, like right before.
Yeah, I don't know. It was like I just wanted to be in my own little bubble with him, and I didn't want anything else. So we were totally like knew we were going to be with each other from day one. So we got pregnant and married very quickly. But we also, I don't know. My dad always says, you guys got married late. Not for me, I don't feel like. I think it was like 29 or 30 when I got married, so I don't feel like that's late at all. But he's 7 years older than me. Yeah, so once like I was building my family, I just kind of didn't really have anything to do with the Portuguese community at all. I mean,
well, you're focused on that.
I think I went so hard, in the Portuguese community for so long.
It's a little breather.
It needs like a little bit of space and time it's a lot. And then I started the podcast not even wanting it to be to the Portuguese community, because it was all about mental health and all of the like my life. Like it was like a diary venting thing, and like I was going to therapy for the first time, and I was like figuring things out about myself and processing a lot of things, and it was like not really a good time for me. It was like really a dark era, but it turned into what it is now, and now I'm highlighting Portuguese creators and supporting the community, and it always ends up happening that way with me. It's like I can't get away from the Portuguese community, even
it just like gets back in there.
But I think it also is the evolution of me healing too. So like I moved out of the dark era. So yeah, of course, I don't want the podcast to stay at that, like in that place. I'm supposed to grow and evolve and find what this whole purpose and what this all means. So I'm happy with where it's at right now. I think that people are liking it, and I think it's helping other people shine because there's not a lot of outlets for people to show their, not just like their talent, but like who they are. Like, for instance, having David on the show, like people have heard his music forever, but like, who is he behind all of that? And like, we know David because he's in San Jose, but like people that are not in San Jose, that he performed in East Coast and
He's
things
just
like
kind of like
that.
a face.
Yeah, so it's kind of like the central spot for my generation more so than anything, and younger.
Yeah.
To be able to be like, hey, we do this really cool shit, and we're Portuguese.
Yeah, we're Portuguese.
So here's our platform, and that's what it is. So, but open to everybody. We're open, and we have like something really cool coming up with Pronga, which we're partnering with Portuguese people in South Africa.
Oh.
So they have a huge community in South Africa. Well, I don't want to say huge, but they have a pretty
like substantial.
Yeah, like community in South Africa where they do like events and dances and this and that. So we have a woman that started a podcast, and she's from South Africa, and she's becoming like kind of like our rep over there. And I don't know, I think it's going to be so cool to see that fusion.
Yeah.
A Portuguese community.
Well, yeah, and just hearing like the stories like from them over there.
Yeah, because typically you just hear California, East Coast Canada, Portuguese people. So like, I want to hit everything else out of Portugal that are Portuguese community and see what that's all about. That's what I want to like. I want to learn now because I already know all of this. I've been in all of this, so I want to like.
Yeah. Just like.
Well, how's your Portuguese community here? Go to like, I don't know, like Macau or something.
Yeah.
That'll be see.
Oh, it's so fun.
But thanks for asking me.
Of course. Yeah, I was just curious. Just because I feel like, based on talking to so many people I know, everyone's involvement is so different, and grew up, and some people love it, some people want to stay away from it, but it's always
I think there's the stigma, and I feel like we think it's only for the Portuguese community. I think a lot of communities have the gossiping and the this, but
of course.
I learned something the other day that I thought was a pretty fun fact. I was like, why are Portuguese people very judgmental and gossipy and very competitive? Like they're not. Why is that stigma with that older generation? And apparently because when they were this stems back to when they were in a dictatorship.
Oh.
And they were scared to talk about anything because they would get in trouble. So the only thing that they could talk to is like their neighbor about their neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where like the culture of my friend, she said that she did a paper on it. And that's where the culture of like the gossiping and that happened because they were so scared to talk about anything of like government or anything like that. So they just like, let's just talk shit about each other all day.
Right. Behind closed doors, yeah.
So like the like whispering, like that's all from that era. And I'm like, yeah, because I was like, why do we do that?
Yeah.
But yeah, we have to break some generational curses for sure. But I think we're doing pretty good.
But yeah, I mean, as an outsider, if you will, looking in, I mean.
Yeah, and I don't think it matters if you're in a group or in this or that. Like you just being there is nice. So don't ever feel pressured to be in a group because they will pressure you. And they will ask you for the rest of your life.
And that's okay. They can ask all they want.
Yeah, my husband actually isn't really has ever been involved in the community the way that I was. He had a dad that played music, and he would just like set up a tear down for him and be like, "Bye, Dad." Like he actually had a lot of Asian friends growing up here in San Jose, so he had a lot. He was like, I felt like I was in the Asian culture,
yeah.
But now I forgot what I was saying. I lost my train of thought.
We were talking about
he wasn't really involved at all. So every time like there's a new thing or a new event or anything new, he's like, I never thought I was gonna be involved like this in the Portuguese.
Here I am.
And I'm like, you don't have to go. But he's like, no, it's okay. It's cool because it's going out. It's having a drink. It's meeting with some friends and then listening to some good music. All right, let's just go. The damn Portuguese thing.
Totally.
Cheap drink.
But actually, like so much cheaper. I like how they taste.
Yeah.
So much cheaper. And it's just like, it's more relaxed and casual. Like you're not just like in a restaurant where you have like tables all around you and stuff, or a bar where there's just like,
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to your wine tasting video.
Oh, yeah. my Advent wine.
So if you're not
Instagram
following
videos.
Brian, you can see his Advent wine
My reviews.
reviews. I looked forward to those.
Did you?
So cute.
Glad you liked.
I was like, next time you got to tell us what you buy so people can prepare themselves and try them with you guys.
Yeah. that'd be
Yeah.
fun. Yeah. I don't know this year if I'm gonna do. There was a couple years I did the Costco ones.
Yes.
But then last year I did the Total Wine and More ones, which I actually kind of like.
Trader Joe's has any.
I have no idea. That'd be something I'll look into.
Yeah.
Love Trader Joe's.
Me too.
Yeah. Now I need to look that up. I need to figure out if they have.
Well, that's really that is.
Yes,
Reviews. And thank you again.
Yeah,
for,
thank you
for all of this. And I think that people will really enjoy this conversation. For thanks for being so open with me.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me. And
Of course.
yeah, it's always just such a pleasure when I.
And you'll see him at a festa.
Yes, you will.
Can't get away from it. Bye.
Bye.